Hello, today we're going to learn how to do flying geese. A couple different ways I'm going to show you and ways to make them a little easier. Okay, so here we go. I start with my starter piece of just scrap fabric so that I have something to kind of pull on if I have to, because sometimes they'll get stuck. So you can either, on flying geese, you can either draw the line with one of the erasable markers, or you can do like I sometimes do when I have a bunch of them, just fold it in half and do what's called a finger press or iron it with a press. Then you have a line there that you can use to sew on. And what I generally do is I line it up with the outside edges all the way around, and then I try and sew on the inside of the line just a smidge. So now if this wasn't starting, I could tug on my leader back here. So I'm sewing on just the inside of that line. And then I'm going to chain, because I have to do more than one. I'm going to do what's called chaining. So I'm going to lay another one down right away, right behind it. I'm not going to cut. And then your machine is less apt to come unthreaded, for one thing. And even on the finger press one, I'm going to sew just on the inside of the finger press. Okay, so now I have two of them, so I can cut my leader off and I can cut the first one off. So now I have my seam line there, and like you can see, it's just on the inside of my pen line. And then I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it out and I'm going to finger press. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if it lines up all the way around on this piece that's my actual outline of what it's supposed to be to fit. And it does. So then I'm going to go back, and you can either lay it on your cutting mat here and trim it the 1/4 inch seam, or because I do so many, I usually just kind of eyeball mine. So I'm going to trim off all but the 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so now I know that that one fits. I'm going to finger press it one more time, and that's that side. So I've done the second one. So now I have the other one, and I want to make sure that my angles go the same way. So this one is going here, and this one is going here, so that they are the opposites, I should say, not the same way, but to make it look like a flying geese. It has to be that way. So, and this is not the normal flying geese, because there's a space in between here, and a normal one would actually be where they would both come to the center, but this one is a little bit different. So again, I'm going to line up all my edges on the outside of it. I'm going to put it down there. I'm going to put my needle down next to that line, and then I'm going to tug a little on the one that I have still connected to the machine, and that way I can keep it flowing through there. So this is the one that I actually just pressed with my finger. I didn't actually draw the line. So again, I'm going to finger press it out, see if it lines up all the way around, and it does. So then I'm going to go back and flip it out, and I'm going to cut leaving a 1/4 inch. I'm going to trim that back again, and then I'm going to finger press it one more time. And again, I'm going to put the other one on the opposite end with my angles both being flared out the way that they're, to look like a flying geese. So this one I didn't quite get my point lined up there, so I'm going to finger press that direction. Okay, so now I'm going to line it up on there again. All my outside edges are good. And then I'm going to sew on just the inside of that line that I have. And like I said, if you put your needle in the down position, it tends to draw it in there easier than if you had it in the up position. And it doesn't eat it up like it sometimes otherwise does. So again, I've left the second one on there. I'm going to cut it off now, and I'm going to see if it lines up again. So I'm going to fold it out. I'm going to finger press, and there it looks. So if for some reason it didn't line up with your outside edges on the back side, then I would go back. If it's too far, say it's like this, take it off from there and reline it up and do it. Because what happens is if one of these gets off, then they start all kind of getting wonkier, and you just don't have a nice square block when it's done. So So again, like I said, make sure it lines up on all the sides on the back there again before you trim it. And if it doesn't, like I said, just unsew it before you do any more, and make sure that whatever your pattern is, that the angles are exactly like they are supposed to be in the picture or in the pattern before you trim this. Because once you trim this, you can't change the angle the other direction without replacing the middle piece. You could reuse these little wing things, but you can't reuse the middle piece. So always check the angles that are supposed to be on your pattern before you actually trim. So that's how you do that. And like I said, chaining the pieces makes it so much easier because you have something to tug on if you need to, and you have something to look at, say, okay, I got to do 50 of these. So I'm going to make sure that every time I follow it through, that piece looks exactly like the one in front of it. So that way I know that all 50, if that's what I'm supposed to do, are exactly the same. So there's what my flying geese looks like. And like I said, it just makes an easier way to do it, and so you don't have to do any trimming if you do it that way. So, all right, thank you. Have a great day.